Big announcement from the FBI today that backs in what the Energy Department in the US has already told us and we've known for 2 years. COVID came from the lab.
The FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan. So here you're talking about a potential leak from a Chinese government-controlled lab that killed millions of Americans, and that's precisely what that capability was designed for.
And our most passionate friend in America is Megyn Kelly.
I can still get mad. I can still get mad about it. I'm furious at these people and their refusal to actually want to know the truth, and in Fauci's case, to go back and admit it and just say he's sorry. He knew, Paul. He wasn't on a good faith search that led him, in good faith to pangolin in a market. He was in a bad faith effort to cover up anything that said this was from a lab. Why? Because we're in bed with the Chinese when it comes to research, and they've got a bunch of money and a bunch of facilities that we've helped build that will do stuff that we won't do over here, and we wanted it to continue. That's in the emails that were exchanged by Fauci and his team and his virologist friends in the days after the virologist came to Fauci and said, it was a lab leak. My God, it looks so clear. And then they got browbeaten by him. And within 48 hours, all these guys shifted their message to not only was it definitely a natural origin and not a lab leak, but lab leak is racist. You are a bigot if you even say it. And now we know he sicked those same virologists on the media, on the State Department, on anybody he could get his hands on, whether it was governmental or any sort of public microphone person, including the press, to say, it wasn't a lab leak. Do you understand? Racism. Be responsible. Don't engage in fringe conspiracy theories and say it was a lab leak. Meanwhile, they knew for all sorts of reasons, most especially this so-called furin cleavage site, which is almost never seen in natural origin. It's almost always inserted by man, and they knew it. So it's great to see the Department of Energy, which it was this particular piece of the Department of Energy that knows all about labs. So it's a legitimate part to be looking into this, come around to what we've all known. You can't say it definitively, but you can certainly say it more likely than not. But I have the receipts, and I want apologies, and I want accountability.
Now, I want to talk about, there's a cartoonist who did the thing Dilbert. Now, let's be honest, most people in Australia will have to Google what that is. But if you remember, like 20 years ago, it kind of popped up and went away. He decided to back in Trump, went MAGA, which means there was a target on his back from day one. He's eventually said something too stupid that now means he ends up losing it all. But a good point worth pointing out here is what happens if you flip the races, Megyn?
Yeah, exactly right. So his name is Scott Adams. He wrote Dilbert, which is very, very popular over here. Not quite as popular as like Charles Schultz and Peanuts, but in that league. And he's basically canceled himself. All the newspapers have fired him. His distributor fired him. And he had to know it was going to happen. He's a very smart guy. And the reason it happened was he went out there after seeing a poll that showed something like 48 or 47% of Black people polled were not willing to sign on to the idea that being white is okay, or that whiteness is okay.
Wow. Some
28% of Blacks said, I definitely don't agree with that. And some 21% said, I don't know. So he went out there and said, what on earth is this? Why is that? How can we be okay with that? And why aren't more people talking about it? Okay, that would have been fine. But then he took it another step further and said, I used to identify as Black because I wanted to be part of the winning team. Well, now I realize I've inadvertently joined a hate group. And what I'm going to tell everybody is I'm leaving this hate group, and I advise all white people to get the blank away from Black people. Don't live in their neighborhoods, don't associate with them, and on it went.
If nearly half of all Blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. Best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from Black people.
I mean, it's clearly a racist. Those statements were racist, and I think Scott Adams must know that because he's truly he's a brilliant man. So understandably and predictably, he got canceled from all. But these same outlets, Paul, which now for the past 48 hours have been freaking out about Scott Adams and what he said. I mean, zero over the stuff that happens on MSNBC every night. in America. Every night, just turn on Joy Reid. Try it for 15 minutes. See if you can avoid a hateful statement about whites. Let me know.
Absolutely. It's kind of their business model now. Now, also speaking of, tell us about another example about somebody completely lying about what their heritage is.
This is my favorite story of the week. Thank you. Thank you for letting me talk about
Here
her.
to help.
Okay, so she used to be known, maybe your viewers know the name Rachel Dolezal, white woman back in 2015, outed as having been running a chapter of the NAACP, which is a black group, even though she was white, but she was faking it. She was faking her blackness.
Awkward.
Anyway, she was outed. Okay, meet Rachel Dolezal 2. She was Rachel Elizabeth Seidel, but she went more recently as Raquel Saraswati. Now, Rachel Elizabeth is white as the day is long. I mean, she's as white as I am, right? And but Raquel Saraswati was allegedly gay, Muslim, Latina of South Asian and Arab descent. Absolutely none of which is true. She might be gay. That's it. That's it. All the rest is a lie. Her parents have come out. Her mother has come out to say, I don't know why she's been doing this. It isn't true. And her bronzer is getting darker year after year. And like all great race fakers, she wound up becoming the head of the diversity, equity, and inclusion group for some Philadelphia-based Quaker group called the American Friends Service Committee, which is horrified that they have some race faker as their top DEI. It's so delicious. This is like the predictable end result of the race essentialism. If you're going to racialize everything, if you're going to do this divisive talk about the races and subjugate the whites to everybody else, of course, more and more whites are going to start to say, I'm out. It's like the new trans thing. You know what? Sure. Women get Me Too'd and they apparently don't get paid the same. And, I'm out. I'm a man now. That's what this is.
Yeah. Now, speaking, of course, of a true hero when it comes to minorities, a true hero when it comes to the downtrodden, none other than Meghan Markle. And we learn that, yet another reason why she's suffering is that the bloke that she married wasn't as rich as she thought.
Wasn't rich at all. It's actually quite delicious. It's very clear. And this is from Tom Bauer, who's reporting, in my experience, you can take to the bank. He wrote the book Revenge about her, and it's got great stuff in there. And it's not all bad for her. It's not like he's got it in for Meghan Markle. Like, there are some nice stories about her in there too, but he's got great sources, and he's very well known and respected in Great Britain. And he is reporting that Meghan was very disappointed to realize he doesn't have money. He's a prince who's a pauper. Unless I get the dad or maybe the brother, I'm going to wind up with no dough. I chose the poor one. Crap. So he's got fame, and he gave her that for sure. She's now a household name when she wasn't, just when she was doing Deal or No Deal or the Suits show. But he doesn't have any money. And now that it all makes sense, how she's pimped him out to write the memoir, how, maybe she didn't like how the PR tour went, but she needed that money. He got a $20 million advance on Spare, or as South Park calls it, wah. And she's crying all the way to the bank now because they got that. They got the $100 million Netflix deal. They got a $50 million Spotify deal. But you mark my words, Paul, she's going to blow through that in about 2 years in Montecito, which is one of the most expensive communities in America. That's still not enough dough to be riding private all the time, which they want to do while they lecture us about, driving an SUV or having our thermometer at 72 degrees. And she's going to try to trade up. It's going to be 5 years or under, I think, is the over-under on that relationship. And she's going to trade up for some American hedge funder, billionaire, what have you, who can keep her in the true manner to which she would like to become accustomed.